Really good.
That's it. Look at that Spitfire over there.
Oh, look at that. We're live. Check that out. Isn't that fantastic? The computer, it was keen today. It's ready to go. We are into it today. It's Wealth by Design here. I've got Jeff Bowman with me. She's always, honestly, mate, this sounds like a bit of, I don't know, like stroking the ego. But honestly, it's actually one of the highlights of my week. I love Thursday. You come in, all these wonderful people come in. I get to talk about these brilliant subjects. Now, today's subject's not the most uplifting, but my word, it is important. I'm so glad you are here to actually clarify this for us. This is something that, I think that we have to have this conversation. Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. I think it's a very important platform with all the exposure you get through your various channels.
Yeah,
thank you for the opportunity of getting the word out there a little bit better, more. I think probably not a bad idea to start with a bit of background. I mean, there's only a handful of life insurance products.
Well, let's talk about the subject.
Yeah.
Okay. So the subject is, and I'm going to go for my cheat sheet here because there's a couple of different types.
Yes.
That I actually am not clarified on. So I'd love for you to help me out.
Okay. So
there's TPD, which is total and permanent disability.
Correct.
And what's the other one?
Well, there's life insurance.
Okay.
So if you're dead, life insurance pays out. If you're dead, you're dead.
That's true.
You just need a death certificate and a body.
Okay.
And you get paid out.
Two of the essentials.
Yes.
Okay. Not great for you who's taken out the policy, but ultimately about your loved ones. I mean, I have life insurance for my beautiful kids. I think it's a really important thing to do because once you go, apart from the fact that there's funeral expenses, there's this, that, there's other expenses, but also if you can possibly give, in my case, your kids a little bit of a help along in life. Okay, it's a great benefit. But you might have a mortgage to pay. You pay rather. You may have all of these other expenses.
Totally. Yeah. So life insurance has got its place, and it's a very important spot in the risk management area of anyone's financial life. Okay. And so that's two of the life insurance products. They often will go hand in hand. Often owned by a super fund, but they can be owned by yourself privately. The next life insurance product is income protection insurance.
Yeah.
So that insures your income against a disability that prevents you from doing your normal job. And there's another one called trauma insurance.
Yeah, I'm not up on this.
Yeah. So trauma it's been around for 30 years, but the others have been around for 100 years.
Sure. Okay.
So it's quite relatively new. It was actually founded by a guy called Macias Barnard, who was Christian Barnard's brother. And Christian Barnard was the guy that did the first open heart surgery heart transplant in South Africa all those years ago. Yeah,
I've heard the name actually, and funny enough, isn't it strange? In my mind, I actually put it with yachting. I believe he had something to do with yachting, but
well, that
more important.
Well, that was Bertrand, wasn't it?
Yes,
that was
there you go. That's
So Macias Barnard was actually also a cardiac surgeon in South Africa, along with his brother who did the open heart.
Right.
And he was a bit of an entrepreneur because he developed this life insurance product called trauma insurance. And essentially, it was designed because medical science with surgery and drugs has improved so much that you don't necessarily die from a heart attack.
Not these days.
Most people don't die. So life insurance is no good to you. But you might be knocked out of action for 3 or 4 months and
great point.
And could be an issue. So it just pays out on the confirmation that you've had a heart attack.
Okay.
So 90% of trauma insurance payouts are heart attack, stroke, cancer, bypass surgery.
They're the biggies.
And MS, multiple sclerosis.
Really?
Yeah.
MS.
On diagnosis, you paid out. Yeah.
Okay.
So we paid out millions of dollars with that product over the years through the financial planning company that we own, which I sold a couple of years ago, as you know. Yeah. And so they're the four.
Okay.
There's this, pardon me. There's a small deviation from from death cover.
Right.
And it's called critical illness.
Okay. What's the difference? Well, obviously, I know what death is, but
so critical illness is actually really important because what happens there is that if you're given less than 2 years to live by your specialist and GP,
sure,
you qualify for what's called terminal illness, which means that you can have your death cover paid out early.
That makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about if you've been given that incredible diagnosis. I mean, that would just change your life.
Yeah.
And you want to get out there. You want to be doing things. You want to be able to make change in your life, and or go and have that trip to have those experiences you'd like to have. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Totally. And so it's a tremendous thing, because there's tax paid on a total and permanent disability payout, which I'll spend a bit more time on, because there's a big claim area we do a lot of work on. But tax is paid out on TPD if you claim your TPD before your preservation age, which is 60. Okay. So there's anything up to 22% tax paid on a total and permanent disability.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's not on critical illness, because there's no tax on death cover.
Right. Okay.
So it just makes sense. I'll get my death cover paid out tax-free.
Makes complete sense.
I'm under 60.
22% of difference.
Yeah,
It's a massive difference.
So there's like 5 types of cover, but TPD is an interesting one. The basic definition is if you are totally and permanently disabled, and you're never able to work again, then you're deemed to be TPD.
Okay.
And there's various conditions, both physical and mental,
I can imagine.
that can deem you unable to work ever again. So basically it means your specialist and your GP both will sign off to say, to the best of their knowledge, based on all the information presented, it's unlikely you would ever go back to work again. That's all I've got to say.
Okay. My question, say if you go through this experience and 10 years down the track, life's going better for you and you want to return to the workforce, is that an option for you?
Totally. And it's a very good question, Aaron, because one of my most successful claims was a 50-year-old female, been through 2 divorces, been out of work for 2 years, an ex-senior executive for one of the biggest airlines in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of stress in her life, 2 marriage breakups, a couple of suicide attempts, a bit of a wreck. And but highly intelligent, capable female.
Well, you have
to and a lovely woman. She was referred to me by a colleague, and when I phoned her up to introduce myself, she remembered me for a couple of conferences I'd met her at.
Okay.
And anyway, we eventually got to have a chat in one of the big cities in the east. And she had self-admitted to a psychiatric ward, because she was so crook, drugged up to billy-o. She was allowed out for an hour, although she self-admitted the strict rules on once you go in.
I can imagine.
She was allowed out for an hour.
Right.
And she said, Jeff, this is not a TPD claim. Okay. I said, why not? You've had 2 attempted suicides.
Sure.
You're on enough drugs as long as your arm. You're stressed out to billy-o. You're a single mother. Got a dependent child.
Yeah.
Things are crook. And she said, yeah, but I'm going to beat this. That's why I'm in here. She's so determined. And
I love the determination. That's important. Yeah.
So it comes back to your question. It's a long-winded way of getting back to your question, but hopefully everyone will follow this.
Yeah.
So I said, now listen to me. You said financial security is one of your biggest concerns because you're a single mother and you've got a 15-year-old dependent child. Okay. Yes, I'm stressed out about my finances. I said, well, you've got over $550,000 worth of TPD in this corporate super plan.
Right.
From a previous corporate employer.
Was she even aware of it?
Yes, she was.
Oh, that's a start. Because
she was aware of it.
Not to be.
But she was also in her mind going to recover from her chronic mental illness, and therefore it wasn't a claim. And I said, no, hang on a minute. Let's think about this. If I could get over $500,000 into your super fund and you could get access to it,
sure,
wouldn't that make you feel more secure financially? And she said, oh, yeah, absolutely, Jeff.
I'll answer for her. Yes, absolutely.
And so I said, now, this is a really important stat that you need to understand. She said, oh, yeah, so she was all glazed over with all these drugs. I could hardly tell whether her eyes are focusing. It's a bad situation. And I said, listen and focus.
Yeah.
14% of TPD claimants,
yep,
after they've had a successful claim and they've banked the money,
Sure.
make a miraculous recovery over time and go back to full-time work.
That's brilliant. That is
good.
absolutely brilliant. Okay, especially people who are in professions like that.
Yeah.
That their career is so much a part of them.
Yep.
Right? It's part of their DNA. It's a part of their identity.
Mm.
And to lose that's a big part of that. So to be able to fight back and know that you've got the financial security, know that your 15-year-old son's being looked after and has got a future, right? And that comfort. But also knowing that you can make the effort, you can recover, you can work on yourself.
Yeah.
You can go back to the workforce.
Yeah. So she stored that information away.
Right.
And went, right, okay, I've got this, Jeff. As far as my psychiatrist is concerned, I'm not going to recover.
Okay.
As far as my dealings with you are, I will recover.
Okay.
I said, no, you got it. Because I need that psychiatrist to sign off to say you'll never ever work again.
Sure.
And you'll believe that too. And she went, okay. So
ultimately, you're putting yourself in the hands of the professional.
Yeah.
We're not talking about any run-of-the-mill psychologists here. No offense to psychologists, but a psychiatrist, it's a whole different level.
Yes,
much higher education. Obviously the drug aspect to it, but it's a very, very different skill set. Really,
it's a different skill set, and of course, it's even worse than that. We had the ex-husband was a thug, and he could not know that she was having a claim. Right. And it got really tricky because that ex-husband was actually her last employer. She worked for the husband.
That gets messy.
And so the reason why it was critical not to allow her ex-husband to know she was going through a TPD claim was because if he knew that, he would use other dodgy means probably to harm her.
Wow.
Like send the thugs around. That's the sort of guy he was.
Wow.
And white collar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't give males doesn't give males a good name.
It certainly doesn't sound like it. No.
And it's a shame that everyone focuses on that because most of us are good, right? But in this case, it was a dodgy bloke.
You know what? There's bad people
everywhere.
Both genders. Let's face it.
Yep.
Best avoided.
And so part of a TPD claim is that you've got to get your ex-employer to sign off an employer statement to say that you worked there.
Yep.
This is how much you were paid. This is what your duties were.
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah.
So how'd you get around that?
Good question, Aaron.
Well, it's another good question. I want to screen in a moment.
That's a good question.
You keep going.
So I had to be very tactical here. So the psychiatrist was onto this, and I didn't even need to ask him for the letter.
Right.
He wrote a letter to say, whoever's handling your TPD claim, the insurance companies must not know that the ex-husband and ex-employer is one of the same, and he must not know there's going to be a TPD claim in process.
Okay.
So I used that to go to the trustees of two super funds.
Right.
One had 300, one had 250.
Yep.
$1,000.
I knew you weren't taking pesos there. Come on.
Yeah. So I had to meet with the trustees of both super funds.
Right.
To fly to the east, sit them down, put this letter under their noses, because the responsibility of a trustee is to act in the best interests of the member or the beneficiary. That's the law.
Yeah.
And I said, we've got a problem here. Okay. And you guys are going to help your client and my claimant with this problem. I gave them the psychiatrist letter.
Yep.
And they went, right.
Okay.
Don't worry, Jeff. We can fix this. We don't need the employer to say anything.
Brilliant.
We'll use tax returns, affidavits, this, and this to get around it. Yep. And the husband will never know. This
is where I'm going to drop in on the personal front. It is such an amazing advantage to have someone like yourself who can step in as an advocate.
Yep.
Because without that advocacy, you will not get there.
No.
Right? There is absolutely no way that would have worked had you not had a third party come in and actually step in and truly represent her.
Yes.
Right? That's really important. If it was left to her devices or a family member, and I know like a lot of think, oh, we'll go the short sort of trip here and we'll get a friend to help or whatever. It just doesn't pay. When it comes to knowledge, when it comes to experience, it is invaluable. And please tap into it. That's sort of something.
Too right. Yeah. It's actually very, if I do say so myself, like it's actually quite sophisticated, high-end advocacy work, because you've got to work with all the key players and all the key pieces of the jigsaw puzzle.
Sure.
And then what happened after that, of course, was that she was renting, and then COVID hit.
Oh, right.
And then she got kicked out of her house.
Oh.
And she said she would have been, there was nowhere in this city. It was actually in Melbourne.
Right.
And there was nowhere in Melbourne that she could actually find a place to rent or to buy, because all the owners were coming back from overseas and kicking everyone out.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So she basically said she would have been living in her car, but guess what? She managed to draw down on her super.
Brilliant.
She went and bought a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
Happy as Larry, and now she's back going. She's got her own consultancy business, and she's back in the game.
That is
how good's that?
Oh, mate, it's absolutely good. I'm going to bring up this question because there's been some fantastic questions coming in, and I'd love to address them. Thank you, Phil, for this message here. Phil LeBlanc. Okay, what a great name. Fantastic name there.
LeBlanc. I reckon that's French.
It could be. I think
LeBlanc.
LeBlanc. All of a sudden, I feel like a opinion one, mate. You know him, mate. On that one. Now, what if the incident was a few years back and I never made a claim on my super at the time?
Great question, Mr. Phil LeBlanc.
I look back into this and any possible claim.
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. Okay, Phil, thank you for sending that in. Phil, there is no time limit, essentially, as long as you can prove that they were disabled at the time and they were insured at the time, and you can line up all the reports, all the medicals.
Right.
We're doing one of these at the moment where we're doing a very complex backdated claim.
Right.
Right. It's a posthumous claim.
Right. Okay.
And the woman died about 2 years ago, and the son has been made the administrator of the estate.
Right.
So we're going through all the freedom of information stuff to get all the data from the hospitals, the doctors, the specialists, everyone. But she stopped work in 2008.
I was about to ask you, is there like a statute of limitation here? But we're talking, I mean, that's 16 years ago.
I know. And that's one of the other great things we do about what we do. Because we know how the system works and we know how to go about it. Yeah. Like, we've got a full claims team in the East.
Right. Okay.
Like,
that's important.
They just have to be living there because they work from home. But over 30 years experience in the claims industry.
Right.
So we know we've got all the angles, exactly how to do it, and how to not shortcut the system, because we've got the connections. Yeah. And we know what the claims managers want.
That is so important, because sometimes, like, I've been in situations where you think you're putting together the evidence that you require, okay, but they're not interested in that. It's people have specific marks they have to hit, and without that knowledge, you can waste a lot of time, a lot of emotional and financial and all of this effort on something that's not going to gain anything.
Totally.
In fact, it might go backwards sometimes.
A lot of people are afraid of forms, and how long do you want to sit on a 1-300 number? Oh. Like, it's just chaos.
It really is.
And so, and the other thing, of course, is that all of our work is referred to us because there are other people that do this work, but they're incredibly expensive.
Right.
And they might spend 30 or 40 grand a month on advertising to promote an insurance claims service business.
Ooh.
Yes, like, it's big money, but therefore they've got to charge.
Are they looking for a radio station? My word.
Well, maybe they've got heaps of dough.
I'm just teasing.
But it's because they have to because they charge that amount, they pay that amount in marketing costs. They have to charge a fortune in fees.
That's such a great point. People don't realise it. And obviously, it costs a lot to do business. And if you're having to spend that kind of money on advertising, guess who's paying for it?
Yeah.
It's not the business. Well, obviously, in the short term it is, but it is you as a client.
As a client,
you are paying that. Yeah.
Totally. And so all of our claims are referred to us by our community. Okay. And so there's no.
Phil's got a follow up on that as well. It's how do I find out if my super had this type of insurance attached? Can you help with that?
Yeah. Okay. Great question, Phil. All you need to do is to grab hold of the latest statement from your superannuation company, and if you don't have it at home, you can phone up
Right.
and ask them to send it to you because they'll have it on record.
Oh, there we go.
And then on that statement, you will have the life insurance, the total and permanent disability cover, and the income protection if they've asked for it. Sometimes it might just be death cover, but normally it's death and TPD on industry super funds, because on industry super funds, there's about 6,000 of them.
Okay.
Start again, 6 million.
6 million?
I dropped a zero.
Okay, I was pressing 6,000.
Yeah, that's 6 million. Now, because a lot of people have multiple accounts, and so they go from one job to another and there's a different super fund.
6 million?
There's 6 million of them floating around. And most of these people don't know they've got the cover on their policies because they never had to fill out an application to apply for the insurance like you would a normal retail policy. It's default cover.
You sign.
Yeah.
You just, you get on with it. You're more interested in, training for the job, getting ready for the task at hand. You don't worry about the details.
Yeah.
And maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
Really
because then when someone phones up me and say, look, I'm referring Phil to you because Phil's crook and he wouldn't know how to fill out how to order his milk, let alone a form.
You and me, Phil, I'll tell you right now, on the same page on that one.
A milk order. And so can you help him out? And first thing I'll say to Phil is, look, I will send you a link, upload your latest superannuation statements so we can read them.
Sure.
And sign this authority form so that we can get access to the insurance company data.
Okay.
And you authorise us to deal on your behalf. Right. We do all that at no cost or charge initially because we want to assess whether we think it's a viable claim.
I'm glad you made this comment because actually, Jeff, Phil's actually come back with another comment thanking you, saying, I was reasonably thorough at the time as I didn't want to make a claim. I did want to make a claim. So if you can assemble or suggest a proof of incident, I'll have a go. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
But again, if I can throw my 2 bobs worth in, honestly, as much as I appreciate that, Phil, you might want to give it a go yourself, you're best getting an advocate involved.
And there's another piece. And there's another piece to that, Phil, giving it a go. The absolute non-negotiables are that you need your GP and your specialist for your particular condition. So if it was a car accident and you had a back injury, or you had a stroke and you've got a mental injury, your specialist pertaining to that industry, that injury or illness needs to sign off the form, and so does your GP. And so you wouldn't entertain a TPD claim unless you got those 2 ticks.
Okay, fantastic. More great comments coming in there, left, right, and centre, which is always brilliant to see. And great to see a message coming in here. Let's have another look. This is from Terry Messenger. Fantastic. I feel like I might be on the same page as well with that milk business. Well, again, can empathise big time.
Oh, look, it's difficult. Like
really is.
When you
joke about it, but it's very
it's so hard. It's like 100 pages of forms.
Yeah,
it can be, and it's a nightmare.
Oh.
And so the average person can't just concentrate long enough, but they also don't know exactly how to fill the forms out.
No.
And it's not as if they're trying to be deceitful. It's just saying, well, I don't know really how to answer this question, because you want to answer it correctly.
Of course you do.
And so we'll have our claims manager get on the phone with the person with the claims form. We'll go, righto, let's go through this.
Sure.
Blah, 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 blah. And often we'll fill out most of it for them to start with, all the boring stuff, like name, address, rah. And then you get down into the key stuff, like roughly what was the problem, how did it happen? Oh, well, I was driving on the road and I got back-ended, by a bloody car on the highway, and then you dig down and then when we provide all the evidence to the insurance company, because we've been doing it for nearly 30 years now, in our view, it's definitely a claim. Okay. It meets all the definitions. Okay. We've got every single medical report. We've got everything from Medicare. We've got the works. And then we tidy it all up with an executive summary, put a ribbon on top, and then we hand it to the claims manager.
Yeah.
And we say, Mr. Claims Manager, this, in our view, is a claim.
Sure.
Based on our experience, we don't waste your time. We don't waste our time. It's a claim. And it's up to them now to go, righto, well, we'll go through it. But they very rarely want a lot more information.
I tend to notice this. A lot of these organisations, when something's packaged to them from a professional entity, will take it seriously.
Yep.
you could put the exact same thing. You could wrap that in a bow. You could do it perfectly and do it yourself. And look, I know, very straightforward. They do not take it with the same seriousness as if it's gone through some sort of, an expert in the field.
Experts in the field.
Yeah,
exactly. And they love it.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I had a meeting.
It saves everybody time, doesn't it?
I had a meeting with the trustees of MLC one day after a board meeting with Alcoa, and they said, "Oh, Jeff, look, this is great what you're doing. Can you make yourself available to all of our claims managers?
Right.
And it's just a clean, professional, tidy administration service.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's not illegal. You don't need to be a lawyer. Okay. It's not a legal thing. It's just understand the definition, line up all the evidence in chronological order, so the claims managers can work through it quite easily, and then they can make a recommendation to the trustee of the super fund. And then happy days.
Yeah. Look, the difference. I mean, I when I get forms in front of me, I get about, I don't know, about 3 pages in, and I sort of get Tourette's about it all. I mean, it just starts to go left, right, and centre. I'm writing words. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I become overwhelmed by it. And I mean, I'm a person who works under pressure, but when it sounds silly, but I just it just finds it overwhelming. I think, can somebody else please just help me and do this for me?
Yeah. And
it's not my world.
And so we talked, and income protection is another one. We're having a lot of success with that recently, where someone might have a corporate income protection policy. Okay. And they're not TPD because they're not totally and permanently disabled.
Right.
However, they can't work in their normal job. So they're not TPD.
Right. Okay. So they need to be retrained.
So they might have a definition of agreed value. Mm-hmm. I'm a property valuer.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But they might have got rheumatoid arthritis, and the drugs that you go on can break your concentration because they're such powerful painkillers. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't concentrate for 3 hours to complete a $10 million property valuation, then you actually are eligible to claim on your income protection policy.
Okay.
So you could go and stack boxes in a factory, which means you're not totally and permanently disabled, but you are, under the definition of your income protection policy, incapable of being a property valuer. And so therefore it's a claim. Okay. So I've had some fantastic claims paid out on that. And sometimes we'll even go back 2 or 3 years and say, hang on a minute, you could have put a claim in then, but it's not too late.
Very interesting. And I've got a personal thing on this once. I got injured at work and had income protection insurance, right? Mm-hmm. And because I said straight out, right, I want to work. I can't do what I'm doing at the moment, but I want to work and I'll go and do something else. They gave me unbelievable hell with trying to actually pay what I'd paid for, the product I bought. They did not want to pay out on it. And I think that if I could wind the clock back, it really is very, very frustrating, because if I had someone like you who could have stepped in, I would not have had to go through a complete nightmare. Yeah. I mean, this is a long time.
It's a shame you didn't know about us in those days, Aaron.
I know.
Harry hindsight, all
that. In the ocean alone, mate, I'll tell you right now. But it would have made, and it was so much extra stress, and it became a negative because I said, look, hey, all insurance
companies are dodgy.
Yeah, well, I wanted.
You get that impression, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to work. I don't want to. I don't want to be a leech of society. I want to be productive. Right?
Yeah.
So,
And how's this? Another great stat. Because there's two very different types of insurance. There's the general insurance industry, which is workers' comp, and insuring your car and your house. Different legislation, and you got the life insurance industry. They're governed by two separate legal and legislative bodies.
Right.
A lot of people whinge about insurance companies not paying out because their roof blew away and their policy didn't say, unless the wind blew from the north. Sorry, pay for the roof yourself. So you don't get any of that in the life insurance industry, because these are the stats. Okay. 98% of life insurance product claims pay out.
Whoa.
98%.
Okay.
1% do not pay out because it doesn't meet the definition, which is illegal. Absolute spot on, should never paid out, right? Okay. Example, you are putting in a claim for trauma insurance for lung cancer, and on your application you said you had never smoked.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
But it's all the medical evidence would suggest you were a smoker.
Yeah.
So then you dig up all the medical reports.
Sure.
and you go, and when you are in claim phase, you sign away every right to privacy when it comes to accessing your medical history.
Right.
And on there, it will say on your Medicare with your doctor that was from Timbuktu, he advised you to stop smoking. That will come up, that evidence.
So in 1988, they put in the privacy laws as far as you have a right to privacy about your medical history.
Yep.
So that is effectively
that's waived when you put a claim in.
Okay.
And so way back in, back in the 60s, your doctor said you've got to give up smoking. Now, they'll be on a report.
Of course.
That means that you have got the other 1%er, which is called non-disclosure.
Right. Okay.
So
it
doesn't meet a definition or it's non-disclosure. So you did not disclose the truth at the time. No claim. Just no argument.
Great. There's more comments coming in left, right, and centre. I'll tell you right now, mate, I'm having to try to read.
A bit busy down here. Yeah.
Very busy indeed. Now, Terry Messenger, thank you again for a lovely message. You don't shoot the messenger. Boom, boom. Okay, I just had to fill out a multitude of forms. But since they are making allowance for so many things these days, I told them I have ADHD.
Yes.
Is there a special support system for that in terms of filing out oodles of paper?
Oodles of paper.
Well, seeing I know a lot of people who have ADHD, this is a pretty interesting comment, really.
Yeah, it is. Yes. So it depends on what – that would not be a TPD claim.
Okay.
ADHD. Highly unlikely because it's a condition that would mean you could still do some work.
Okay.
But
you could might stop you from working in the field that you were working in?
Yes, possibly, but unlikely.
Okay.
It could be income protection claim.
Right.
If it could prove that you could not do your normal duties with an income protection insurance policy, right?
Okay.
It would not be a trauma claim because it's not one of the 30 conditions on a trauma claim payout. So it's not death. It's not TPD. It's not trauma.
Okay.
It may be income protection, Terry.
Okay.
So if there's income protection insurance,
further comment with that
it's a possibility.
Okay. Is it still 7 years as of making a claim because of the statutes there? Does it become null?
Look, with any of the life insurance policies, the 7-year bit doesn't come into it.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I'm quite blown away.
It doesn't come into it. It gets harder and harder as the years go on.
I can imagine,
because sometimes the doctors aren't around to fill the reports out. Then you're stuffed.
Think about that. Yeah.
So if the doctors have retired, it makes it difficult. You need the doctor that was servicing you to fill that report out.
Right.
Statute of limitations, as I remember, it used to get cut out. Yeah. Look,
I think there's a lot of confusion, to be honest, on that.
Yeah. And I think for best measure for Terry there, it's probably case by case.
Sure. Okay.
And I'm sure we've gone back past 7 years in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fascinating, actually, because I think about my own life. I also think about other friends who have gone through, had terrible injuries and had to stop work, and they haven't been able to make a claim for what I thought were pretty nefarious reasons. I mean, they were really the insurance company really sort of splitting hairs a bit.
Yes.
But if you go in with the right packinging, if you actually put it together properly.
If you look, and don't worry, the insurance companies are thorough, and they've got to be. They've got shareholders.
Of course
they're not. They're not a benevolent society.
No.
But the facts are they pay 90% of legitimate claims out.
I just expect
90%.
Yeah, I just expect fairness.
98%. Sorry,
98%.
Correction, 98%.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us just wouldn't be aware of that, And also, let's be frank, we always like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to blame somebody else for the issue there. So but 98%, that puts them in a much better light than I.
Yeah, and so we will take on a claim when we think there's better than a 60-40 chance of it getting up.
Okay.
Because we've got to make a decision reasonably early in the case.
Right.
With because clients, they want help.
Of course.
And then we'll go, look, we think we need to get all the evidence. It's going to take a while. They take 3 to 6 months. Most of ours are paid out within 3 months.
Yeah.
The average is 6 months. The average mental health claim can take 2 years, but we get them knocked out within 3 to 4 months.
Okay, let's go there. let's go the mental health one.
Yep.
This is certainly over the last 4 years, mental health has come to the absolute front of so many people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about, is there a different procedure when you're looking at claims for mental health? I mean, does it take longer? Is it more complicated?
Okay. Well, it's a psychiatrist, not a psychologist.
Yes. Yeah. As we started.
He or she must sign off.
Okay.
To say that due to your mental condition,
Mm-hmm.
it is highly unlikely that you will ever work again.
Right.
They can't say never, because you can never say never. Even the specialists, they don't know, because we know what their stats are. 14% go back to work. Right. That's high.
Yeah, it's much higher.
Does that surprise you?
Big time.
It really surprises it actually.
To be frank, I thought it would be tops 2%.
Yeah, it's a concern for the industry actually, because it just seems too high, but they are the numbers.
Okay.
And so for the mental health, the rules are no different.
Mm-hmm.
Break your back, or have mental health.
Okay.
It's a psychiatrist and your GP need to go, yep, this is all the history, this is all the treatment they've had, this is all the drugs they've been on.
Sure.
And it's absolutely chronologically nailed down, every single bit of treatment, every drug, every date, every piece of advice they've got from their medical people.
Has to be thorough.
It's a monster document. Okay. Then, if they say at the end, unlikely to ever work again, and the GP supports it, and they normally always do, it's the specialist that's really the driver, then it's a claim.
Okay. It's a claim. There's a reason why you get these insurance policies. There's a reason why you actually, invest in protecting your financial future, okay, and the people around you and the people you support and look after. So, I mean, these are never pleasant sort of subjects. We don't want to talk about death or taxes, but it's an important conversation. Mate. It really is. Like the things that I've learned since I've met you, there's so many things I didn't know that you could. I mean, not that I'm sitting around looking for a claim, but from the point of view of I get people contact me all the time with lots of issues.
Yes.
Okay. So, and a lot of the issues would be they would just be a lot easier to live with if they took the financial pressure out of that.
Totally.
Right. So you've got people who are going through all sorts of health issues and dramas, relationship problems because of that. Obviously, the financial dramas. If you can take one piece of that puzzle away, you are really helping with them recovering, whether it be physical or mental health.
They're not going to work again, the poor devils. No. So they cannot work again. I mean, I don't know a guy from Alcoa. He 44.
What?
44 with a broken back.
Oh my word.
And so you're never going to work again. And it was a big payout, but you got to sit down and go, well, you're not wheelchair. You're not wheelchair, but your back is so bad.
Yeah.
And it will get worse. You'll get arthritis. Rah. And so that money that comes in has to be managed. You can't just go and take a cruise.
No.
Right. And so that's another step because we're ex-financial advisors and we work with financial advisors.
Sure.
How that money is managed for the next
great point, mate.
20, 30, 40 years is absolutely critical.
And you will link the people up with their specific, their personal circumstances with the person who suits them best.
Totally.
And that's a great thing about the fact that you've got a network.
Yeah.
You're not just going, I've got one bloke who looks after this. No.
No, because they might be Brisbane-based. We've got to have the right financial advisor in Brisbane that we work with, we can refer them to, because we can't give any advice on that.
Sure.
We just got to go, we can do the claim. That's all fine. Yeah. But then if it comes to managing the money in super, because you've got to keep it in super. Gotcha. You'll take a bit out of your super to pay our fees, right? Yep. Because we work on a no-fee, no-win, no-fee basis.
Of course. Yep.
So we do all the work up front on the basis that we reckon it's a 60-40 chance of getting up.
Sure. I mean, that shows your confidence, quite frankly, in your abilities and the fact you don't take on frivolous cases.
No. Because we're going, no, it's not going to be the definition.
No.
Or the guy's been a bit dodgy here, and so, and the disclosure. And so we've got to make those calls reasonably early. And then, insurance case of 44 and a broken back.
Oh, yeah, just a comment that's come up. Sort of
it has to be managed, which is another step. Yeah, so that's right. It's got to be managed. because they've generally got dependent children. If you're 44, you've got kids.
Mate, 44, you're a pup.
Yeah.
You know,
You've got young kids. They're 10, 12, whatever.
Oh, and trust me, the teenagers are never leaving home now. No way. Why would they?
I know.
So you've got it for life.
Yeah. And although you've got access to all that money now, because you haven't reached your retirement age, and it might be 500, 600, could be $1 million, then you got to go, right, now you need a decent financial advisor.
Yeah.
It's in pension phase. You've got to be able to take out an amount that's you've got to help with your life.
Sure.
But let's just go to the next stage and don't get the lotto mentality happening.
Because it's not a win, right? I mean, this is my thought. You tell me if I'm wrong. I don't consider it a win. I think that this is the money that you would have earned. You've had the injury. This is something that's there. You've had the good sense to have the insurance. I don't see it. It's certainly not a lotto win. This is not it's not plucked out of the air.
It's not. However, there are predators everywhere.
Of course there are.
Right.
Yeah.
And there can be predators within your own family, and pressure. Oh, you just got a whole bunch of cash.
It's amazing how many cousins you get when you get a bit of cash.
All the cousins turn up.
Yeah.
And so planner helps to put the barriers up, and you can go, sorry, I've got no money. The financial planner's taken it all from me.
It's a great excuse. Right? It's a great excuse.
And it's all in super. I can't get it out anyway. Oh, really? Oh, I thought you could get it out. Well, not really. It's in super. And quite happy for you to talk to my financial planner, but he'll charge you.
Of course.
That's your chase them away. Yeah.
If you want more friends and family, there's two things you can do, right? Okay. There's a lotto win or buy a car trailer. I don't know why, but if you got a car trailer, you got more mates than you know what to do.
How true is that?
It's so funny.
Tovo and a trailer.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone's moving. Right? Away you go. Oh, brilliant, mate. Look, I think we've pretty well covered it. I sort of, me with notes. I don't really use them a lot. Yeah. But I just want to jump down here and have a bit of a quick look, because you've handled some very big cases. We're talking about like some from small, invert those commas, as 70,000 to 1.2 mil.
Yeah.
That is a lot. Well, quite frankly, 70,000, a lot of lives will change.
Of course it is.
So the pressure that takes off, and again, I'm from a personal standpoint, I deal with people every single day, contact me, who are bringing their problems to me, right? Which is interesting situation to be in, because I want to solve these problems for people, but so much of it is the extra pressure of the finances.
Yeah.
And if you could take that element away, that you can put your effort into those other dramas.
Totally. Yeah.
I just think
gives you a chance to rearrange your finances. Give yourself some certainty.
Mortgage payments. I mean, we've seen obviously the rates going up. People at mortgage pressure is like it's never been. Now that's tough as hell when you've got a job.
Yes.
Right? But when you've got sickness, illness, or whatever the case may be, when that goes up and up, this financial pressure is even more intense than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I just think this is a tough thing to talk about. Important stuff. When I pass away, I don't want anyone to have to pay my funeral costs. I don't want that, because I had that burden. I got someone I loved very much that passed away, and I just literally, they came up and gave me the bill. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the $8,000 funeral bill.
Oh,
I'm sure it was.
And then some.
But
it's, and it's an unnecessary burden, whereas if you just do a little planning, you talk to the right people, you get linked with the correct people as well for the correct advice.
Yes. So this is just a small microcosm of a bigger system of financial management for individuals, really, and families. Yeah,
thoroughly agree.
Yeah.
Well, funny if you say that, because the comment that's just come out about the fact of, there we go, sometimes family members turn into predators. They certainly do. Oh, look, I've got Alien versus Predator in my mind, so Gordy, away we go. I think we'll use that as a point to end the show, mate.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure getting you around here. And,
thank you, Aaron.
Again, thank you from a personal point, from the fact that the knowledge is power, and the knowledge you bring every single week to myself, to our listeners, to our followers, to people who watch this and consume this, into the future, it's so valuable, mate. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's we always love a sincere compliment, Aaron, and it's greatly appreciated. And I think, and for any of the listeners of this podcast get one thing out of this, it will be they may know someone
Yep.
that know someone that needs to talk to us, because they probably won't want to come to us direct.
That's a great point.
Because they won't know that they've got a claim.
It's a really good point.
Mm.
All right, mate. Thanks very much for being part of Wealth by Design here on Edge Radio Australia.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, ball boys.